Hi, everyone, and welcome to our latest webinar, 7 Best Communications Practices for Launching an Organics Program. I'd like to get started with a round of introductions. For those of you who are not familiar with us here at ReCollect Systems, please allow me to introduce us. ReCollect was born in 2009, and we offer digital tools to help our customers streamline solid waste and recycling communications. We are a group of solid waste professionals, public policy experts, data ninjas, and highly experienced educators who are passionate, purpose-driven people committed to changing the waste and recycling industry. Here today, we have myself and my colleague, Kelly Millman. My name is Jenny English, and I've been working in the solid waste industry for something over 10 years now. I take great pride in having been a customer of ReCollect prior to joining the team here, and I'm really excited to have you all here today. Kelly, over to you.
Thanks, Jenny. My name's Kelly Millman, and I'm a Waste Solutions Manager here at ReCollect. I've been with ReCollect just over 3 years now, and prior to my time here, I worked for both government, doing recycling outreach, and a private waste hauler as well.
Part of the reason why a lot of folks are starting to look at introducing new organics programs is, governments and municipalities across North America are constantly striving to take action to divert waste, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and this is sort of sparking an influx of mandatory, or in some cases, voluntary food scrap collection services of all different kinds. And so that may be part of the reason that's kind of driving you to do this. Is certainly that's something that we've seen. We see it in the state of Vermont. They've banned disposal of food scraps and trash in landfills. That would be starting last summer. It's also something that was seen in California. Some similar legislation was passed there in 2014. And I think certainly in Canada and a lot of places, this is something that has happened in the past as well. So certain places like in Metro Vancouver, they had introduced a ban on food scraps in the landfill and in the waste. So for a lot of reasons, you may be looking to introduce some type of new organics collection program. And so what we're trying to do is kind of take our own experience and our own knowledge and share that with you all today. We're kind of taking this from the assumption that you've gone through all of the steps of having decided you're going to do this program. You figured out what way it makes sense for you. So whether that be a curbside collection program, perhaps it's a drop-off program, or maybe you're working with an outside vendor who will be the one that will come in to provide those services for residents. So, a lot of varying different options, and certainly a lot of this will be sort of focused on, what's available to you in your area, what facilities, what type of other industry exists in the area where you can maybe rely on there being another facility that does organics processing. That may not be the case, so you may be in a place where you're going to have to then go and build such a facility. In which case you certainly have a lot of work to do, and we tip our hats to you. We will be expanding on all of this since it's such a hot topic. So stay tuned for more from us on this topic. And for now, we'll just be focusing on the communications aspects of this all. So when it comes to introducing this kind of a program and looking at the different bits and pieces that you need to do with your communications, the number one thing that I'd recommend you do is create what we would call like kind of a plan for your whole program. You want to look at doing things like a press release, community events, advertising and promotion of the program, delivery of the carts and containers, leveraging your website, and then finding ways to stand out from the crowd so that you can catch residents' attention and get them kind of engaged in this new program, having them interested in actually taking part in it. So number one, creating your plan. This is where you're going to want to create a sort of a project plan and project management plan. This might be something that you simply house in an Excel document. In my experience, that's what we had done in many places. And ultimately, there's a lot of things you want to identify, but it needs to be kind of like this one canonical source where people can come to and everybody's able to keep up on what's going on with the program. Everybody knows who's responsible for what needs to be done, and you can kind of map out the entire process. Things that are really important to identify in this program plan will be your team. So what team members are involved, outlining each step. So I would recommend outlining each step involved in the program. And I would break this down right to the nitty gritty, go through it with a fine tooth comb, get every single little thing that needs to be done down into that spreadsheet, and then assign those team members to each different component. You'll also want to set realistic goals for timelines, when you want to have these things achieved, locations. So if you need to take up a warehouse of space for all the carts or anything like that, making sure that you've got this all aligned and that these other stakeholders that are going to be involved are aware of it. It's been approved. You've got the space for it. You've got the project team's time is associated to it, and they're all aware of how much time they're going to have to invest in this. And then certainly, like I said, just keeping it all in one kind of place and making sure all that information is there. I'd also recommend providing a column where you're able to then provide updates. So if something's been completed, it could be as simple as this has been done and the date it was completed by. I would also recommend even just like, if you run into any hiccups, maybe jotting that down. So anybody else who's involved, if you've got a manager, or maybe, the town manager, anybody who maybe really wants to kind of see where things are at with that program, they could pop in there without having to ask you any questions. They should be able to figure out where things are at, and they'll know where you stand with each different component of that plan. Always happy to chat about that further. So of course, please do reach out.
Thanks, Jenny. So I'll chat with you a bit about communication strategy. I sit with the customer success team here at ReCollect, and much of our job is working with our existing customers, communities, and private waste haulers to help promote their programs and really ensure that they're getting the engagement they need in order to meet their goals. We wanted to share some of those successful strategies with you today, and the first is creating a splash with your new program. So usually the first step is to rely on your trusted media sources to promote that program, specifically your organics program. So you might want to reach out to newspapers, radio, television stations, and anywhere residents are tuning in to get their local information. Another great source of local information are your local sustainability groups. So by bringing them into your plan, aligning them with your goals, the instructions, and preparing them to speak towards this new program and answer questions on the program, you're really going to make a splash and make an impact there. These are people that are really passionate about this subject and love spreading the word. So I think you'll find that you can have some great advocates there. I'm a member of one of the local sustainability groups where I am, and I know we would love to be tasked with a communication goal like this. When it comes to the content itself, of course, you want to make a splash. You want to, spike interest of the residents and the people this program is going to serve, but you have to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and you're not going to make more work for yourself. So make sure all the information is ready and available to residents so that they aren't just immediately calling you with all their questions and trying to find out more. They're able to self-serve and learn more about the program immediately. So you're going to want to cover everything from who this program applies to. Is it just single family homes or is it multifamily? Is it going to, go on to businesses and commercial businesses? So you're going to have to be really clear on that information. You also have to let residents know what they're going to need to participate and if that's going to be available to them, how they're going to have access to those materials. And of course, last step, you'll have to let them know when to get started. Often, giving this information ahead of time is great so that they're not immediately panicked. They have to change right away. they can start to set themselves up and make a little space maybe in their kitchen to start sorting out their organics and things like that. So the other thing to consider, of course, is if you do have concerning materials that you know are going to be a challenge ahead of time, you just might want to highlight those right off the hop. Another great way to communicate and promote this new organics program is going to be through community events. I think a part of the outreach recycling education jobs many of us enjoy and many of us are excited to get back to. So by first identifying what events may have a large group of representative residents and then signing up for those events, getting your feet on the ground, having a booth there, that'll allow you to really get in front of residents and make a big impact. I would suggest, opening up the conversation and trying to get some feedback on the program itself, whether that's informal and you're just anecdotally taking note of the kind of questions that residents are asking at the event, or a little more formal and perhaps you create a survey to have them fill out right then and there so you can have some more quantifiable feedback from them. And of course, we don't want to just announce our new program and walk away. We should create a long-term communication goal or communication plan that drives awareness and continually engages residents to continue to learn about their program. We can leverage different types of media sources to do this, whether it's maybe paid advertising, which is great. If you have the budget for it, it can be really impactful. But if you don't, you can also rely on some more economical methods like social media. For the content itself, you can even create your own and really make that dynamic content. So focus on those commonly misunderstood items, share your learnings from that feedback at the event, and perhaps even can spark some attention or make a connection with a zero waste tale or a local success story that explains the program. Make sure that those ads are really fun. I know that my experience is we kind of highlighted a local stakeholder when we were promoting our organics program. So we told the tale of what happens to those food scraps once they get to the processing facility. And I remember through doing that, learning about the process itself, and it's really gross, but it's really interesting. And you got to see the impact of some of those misunderstood items and why they complicate the actual process itself. For us, it was a fun tale, and it turned out that at first we were accepting coffee cups, and then the processor had underestimated the Tim Hortons consumption in the area. And it was actually complicating the process. So we had to turn around and tell residents, no, you can't put your coffee cups in the compost. But from telling that story, we actually got a lot of engagement. You're also going to want to, of course, set residents up for success and give them everything they need to participate properly in this program. So that might include the kitchen catcher and cart. Let them know what they're getting, when they're getting it, and then of course you're going to deliver that. You want to make sure that there's proper labeling and guides included with that. A label right on the kitchen catcher or the bin itself is a great way to go, a wonderful strategy. Maybe you want a concise fact sheet in there. No matter what content you provide, you might want to kind of push residents a little bit further and provide them with a resource that they can continue to self-help through. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Another great information piece is letting people know how to line their kitchen catcher. Maybe you want to include some instructions on what a compostable bag is versus biodegradable. Maybe you want to include a coupon for those proper bags, or something a little more economical. And I think from my experience, received a lot of positive feedback from was just letting residents know you can actually use newspaper and some fun ways to fold that and create a liner out of actual, reusable material. You're likely going to hear some objections and some complaints about smell, so be prepared for that, and you might want to include some tips and tricks around that as well. Like I said, you're going to want to direct residents to self-help and learn more and know where to go when they have questions. And to do that, the best way is to leverage your existing website. So no matter when you're reaching residents, you want to leave them with that call to action. So letting them know how to reach you, how to learn more. And it should always be your trusted brand, your trusted website as the main source of information. This allows you to have all your information in one place. Your website will provide insight into how your residents are interacting with the information, so you're able to be more dynamic. Perhaps you're seeing some of those top searched items and the confusing items in the organic stream, and then you're allowed to use that to further target those materials in your communication strategy. You can continue to update and evolve your program information through your website. So some of that initial handout content might be a little more stagnant through print, but letting them know to continually check the website or pop in there will ensure that they're always seeing the latest, greatest information about your program as it continues to grow and evolve. And finally, you want to stand out from the crowd. So I mentioned being the trusted source of information, but part of that is creating a fun campaign and some branding around that campaign. So residents know that it's coming from you. This is your organics program, their organics program, and represents their service provider or community that they're with. You have to make sure that the content you're putting out there isn't just the rules and a strict outline. You have to make it fun and engaging. So put some value in there for the residents as well. Let them know that how this is helping them. The organics program is helping them, their community. Maybe it gives back. Maybe there's an end product that's available to everyone or used in their communities, in their recreation areas, and so on. There's a lot of analytics that comes from this kind of communications and marketing. So you're able to see, once again, how your residents are interacting with that information. Maybe you did capture some feedback. However you're displaying this or getting the word out, you're going to have some really great feedback from that and be able to kind of make data-driven decisions moving forward. Finally, you can automate some of your resources. So this is a great trick from our marketing team. And you can leverage some wonderful technology that's out there today to save time for yourself, but then also create a trickle campaign that's set up ahead of time, slowly feeding residents the information they need in a much more digestible way.
Thanks, Kelly. Those are some really great tips. I want to show a couple of examples of some of what our customers have done, as I think it's some really great examples and some tips to kind of get things flowing for anyone who's interested in kind of learning more about what they can do for their particular situation. I'd like to start that off with Rye, New York, and sort of highlighting what they've done there. So let's fly on over to Rye and take a peek. So over in the city of Rye, while they were introducing the ReCollect products, they came to a point where they decided that they also wanted to introduce an organics collection program. In doing that, what they wanted to do was get started with a pilot program and allowing about, I believe it was around 100 to 150 residents sign up to receive curbside collection services. But they didn't want to just limit it to just those people in receiving those items. They wanted to have that available to all residents as well. So what they did was kind of two different things. So if we hop over into what they've deemed their recycling store and we type in 100 Ridge Street, what we should see then is I see two options. I can order some supplies here, but they have this food scrap recycling first time registration form. Now, what this allowed them to do was for any residents who wanted to become a part of that pilot program, essentially the first 100 to 150 people to sign up got to get the curbside collection services. So they would jot down their information for their address, and and then essentially they were given this opportunity to pick up a food scrap collection kit, and then they could carry on and dispose of their items separately from their waste and place that at the curb for collection. For other residents involved who also wanted to take part in it but didn't manage to make the cut, what they were able to do is then also sign up for the program and effectively purchase a kit. Now, this would allow them to use the service, but then they would then be required to drop this off. So we can see they can drop off the material. The curbside pickup option is completely full, and then they're given a place and where they can go and drop that off. This then, once the resident enters in their information, they were then brought to a screen where they're able to then pay for that kit. So just a small fee to pay for the materials that they need to be collecting things at home, and have that available to them so they can go and then drop it off. Another thing that they're doing very much behind the scenes here is that they also wanted to make sure that they could really understand how well this program was going to be used. So one of ReCollect's product offerings is what we call a curbside audit tool. What that allows you to do is to have your staff go out on the street and check in bins, check to see if people are participating in your programs, and then kind of collect any sort of information you want at the curb. What they wanted to do was to be able to go down the streets, go see the homes that had signed up and were part of this pilot program, and get an idea of, are people really initially excited by the program and so they partake in the program for only a short period of time, or do they consistently use it for months after it's initially launched? This also allowed them an opportunity to record any contamination so that they could start to get an idea of, what are the common things that we're seeing that people are throwing into their organics. These could be things, and from my personal experience, what I've seen is oftentimes people will put things like takeout food containers that may not be compostable may end up in there, or maybe plastic bags. Sometimes people get that a little mixed up. A biodegradable bag they may think could go in there and it can't. And sometimes even compostable bags that are that sort of compostable plastic. Those are oftentimes not accepted at a sort of municipal household level, but rather a commercial level. And so it may be that residents are using those. All of that type of information can be collected inside of the curbside audit tool. And so they would then use that to then monitor what was happening at those addresses and have done that over a period of time. I don't have any results to share on that yet. That's of course up to them to share those great results with everyone. I just think it's a particularly great example of, a really smart way of launching it. So that you can back that program, you can bring this to council, you've got data to back it up, and you can prove that it's going to be worth the time and money because residents actually really are going to take part in the program. The other thing we can see too is that when residents go to their collection calendar, if they are signed up with that service, they'll also be able to see the item or the day that is being collected, whereas residents who are not part of the program would then just simply not see that collection day because they haven't signed up for it. So that is more or less the story of what's going on in Rye. Stay tuned. We really hope that one day we'll be able to share a full success story on everything that they've learned there, and we'll be sure to share that with everyone if and when we get that from them. So let's fly on over to our friends in Edmonton, heading west. So over in the city of Edmonton, they have a lot of changes underway right now. And one of those things is that they are moving residents away from just bagged garbage to a cart-based system. So part of what they're going to be doing is communicating with residents on when they should expect to receive those carts. They happen to also be introducing an organics collection program at the same time. So if you thought they were already keeping themselves busy with the change in how their garbage is collected, they really, really made themselves busy by including that whole food scrap program at the same time. But I guess it's kind of like ripping the Band-Aid off and getting it all done at once. This has been a really great example. They've done an awesome job at communicating with residents and doing this in so many different ways so that people feel supported and understanding what's going on. They don't have, they're not running around wondering when's my collection, what's happening. But this is a ton of work and an amazing example. I'd highly recommend that you hop over to the website, check out what they're doing there, and just and learn from what they've done, because they really have done an outstanding job. So we can see here, I'm kind of scrolling through their website. They've kind of taken everything away from this garbage and recycling page and effectively are highlighting everything about this program. They want everyone to know what's happening, when it's happening, and we see these kind of constant calls to action. So things like find out when your carts are coming, search your address in the WasteWise tool. All of these things to help residents understand what's going on, a call to action to search what goes where so that they feel like they understand how to properly sort their waste. Really important thing when you're introducing an organics program is having people understand what does and doesn't go in it. Sometimes people are a little bit surprised to understand that bones can go into an organics collection program, of course, assuming that your program can take that. So once we scoot on down here, we get to a collection calendar. And if I was to type in an address here, what this will do is what we see right now is we've got this call out again. Hey, sign up for a reminder so you're not going to miss anything. Just making sure that we can really point residents' attention to what's happening and they really understand what's coming down for them here. And we can see there's the big bin event happening and regular collection happening for these residents on the Wednesday. And we see it's just recycling and garbage. When a resident scoots forward towards the end of July in the collection calendar, what we can see here is that they're identifying that the new carts are coming in. They're now going to be starting to get delivered across these different dates. And so then residents can understand, okay, it's going to happen over a certain period of time. And then they've again identified cart collection will start. So the resident knows when it's being delivered, they know when the collections start. And the beautiful thing here is, so we're seeing that the cart collection will begin here. And we also see for the first time that the food scraps cart is also being collected on that day. And we see that going forward. So there's, a couple of ways that we do this. These are events that you can put inside your calendar where residents can see them show up, but they won't necessarily be reminded of them with a regular weekly reminder. We don't want to overwhelm people with information that isn't necessarily the most important, but they can still see it there so they can get the information they need. The other beautiful thing is being able to then have kind of like a dual collection or a dual route inside of this calendar so that we can have residents see the new collection routes as they come into play. And then going forward, the residents will just have their regular collections, going to bi-weekly garbage collection, weekly food scraps and recycling, and off they go into the future and they know what's happening. This can really help to eliminate the amount of phone calls you receive. In my experience at the City of Richmond, we went through something similar where we also introduced a bi-weekly garbage cart collection program, very similar to what they did here. And the one thing that we had learned from other folks in the Metro Vancouver area and in their experiences, what they said was to get the word out to residents in absolutely every way possible. You will have an influx of phone calls throughout this period, but the more you do to communicate everything, the less you'll get that phone ringing. And of course, our biggest goal is to help you stop that phone from ringing. So we certainly want to help you do that. And now we're going to take a look at sort of a different example. So we're going to head over to Massachusetts. So I wanted to highlight this example here. This example is a little unusual in some respects, but super important to share. So what I think is pretty unique here is that these folks also wanted to have offer a service to the residents where they could have this kind of material collected, but it wasn't something that was going to be offered by the city. And so what they did was, it's not necessarily included in the calendar, but we can see that this composting tab is available here. And if I click onto that, we see some information saying they've entered into a partnership with Black Earth Compost. They really want their residents to go and sign up for this service. They identify the costs, so they provide all the program information that a resident needs to know. And then a simple sign up for weekly service here that will link the resident over to that company's website where they can then fill out a form to start getting service from them. They also provide a little bit of information on backyard composting. So with our tools here at ReCollect, this is something that we're able to do for any of our customers. If there's important information that you want to highlight and it doesn't necessarily fit within the mold of the collection calendar or the waste wizard or a special collection tool, we can simply highlight that information in a separate tab, making it more obvious to the resident, making them able to see that. They're able to get more information, whereas perhaps, you know, they didn't catch on that there was this program being offered by this organization, but they came here for another reason. And if they're like me, they want to do whatever they can to reduce the amount of trash that they're creating. So signing up for a compost service is an excellent way to do that. So that was just a simple little example there that I think is really great. So just wanted to show that off. That is pretty well all that we have to show to you today.
Thanks, Jenny. I love hearing about our customer successes. And thank you all for joining us today. I think we're all aligned with why an organics program is so important. Whether it's mandated or not, it's helping us to achieve those zero waste goals and diversion goals. And then, of course, it produces an end product that's really valuable to us in our backyards or in our communities. If you'd like to learn more or continue the conversation, we would be happy to discuss. Please feel free to reach out to us directly, or you can go to recollect.net and click Let's Talk to schedule a consultative call, or subscribe to our newsletter.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.